The Fantasy Six-Pack Hour. With your hosts, Joe Bond.
You're awful.
And AJ Applegarth.
It's Sin Shu Chu. It's a mouthful.
All right. Welcome to the Fantasy Six-Pack Hour. My name is Joe Bond, founder of FantasySixPack.net. With me, as usual, co-host AJ Applegarth. What's up, man?
No, not too much. Not too much. Another day, another dollar. I don't know. 3 more beers, whatever.
You 3 beers deep already?
No, not yet.
Close.
Maybe one-ish.
All good, man. All good. All right. So tonight we're going to be breaking down some of the news and notes and things like that from week 1 of fantasy baseball, and hopefully get you guys some advice that you need to help you with your leagues. Before we continue, though, I want to remind everybody, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button wherever you're listening and watching us, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, you name it, we're there, Facebook. We appreciate the support. Without further ado, though, let's bring in our guest, Mr. Jim Sanez. Did I get it right?
Yeah, you were perfect.
All
you nailed it. Well done.
You taught me before the show, so I had to hopefully.
Oh, you got it.
Hopefully, I got it right. I was worried. Jim Sanez is a contributor for Number Fire. He's does a lot of good stuff over there. Heavy into the DFS. Sorry, my eye is killing me all of a sudden. I don't know what's going on. It's really bothering me. I don't know what the hell's going on here, man.
Now your eye's holding you up.
Yeah, who knows?
What's next?
All right. And apparently he is a huge Byron Buxton fan. So we're gonna get into that in a minute, but let's do our beer of the week first.
Beer.
All right, Jim, you are the guest of honor. We will let you go first.
Okay, so I'm in Syracuse, New York. So I had to go with the Syracuse beer. We have the Willow Rock Experimental. Willow Rock, an awesome brewery, pretty small brewery right here in Syracuse, a place we frequent often. A lot of good beer. So if you're in the Syracuse area and you have not tried Willow Rock, would absolutely endorse it for sure.
All right, good stuff. I'll have to keep that one in mind. AJ, what you got, man?
All right. Well, I'm finishing one off, and I will be cracking into a collaboration here that I just picked up last week by Stickman Brews and HopheadsGear.com. It's called the Double Deuce. Ironically or not, it's a double IPA.
No kidding.
I know. It's like the double and then the double just are double. So they just go together. But yeah, this is one out of Reutersford, PA.
All right.
So,
yeah, I don't think I know where that is. So cool.
It's in PA.
It's in Pennsylvania. At least I know that. That's about all I got. All right. I am drinking a beer from a brewery I've had on the show a lot. It's local to here. True Respite Brewery. It's called Joyride. Pretty funny looking can. It's a hazy double IPA. It's got a bunch of hops, actually. Idaho 7 Cryo. Never even heard of that one before, to be honest with you. Cashmere Cryo, and then Centennial, Equinaut, and Calypso hops. So like actually a bunch of hops I'm not even really familiar with. But I gave it a 3 3/4 on Untapped. It's pretty solid. Couple sips every once in a while kind of hit you, and you're like, "Ooh," and then like the next ones are okay. So it's kind of weird. I don't know, but it's okay.
Oh damn! Did I just sober up again?
yeah. They sting. I don't know what happens. Like you get a chunk of some of the hops, and they hurt.
Sting is a very visceral word. It says it does a lot of mileage for one syllable there.
Yeah. So, all right. So. Byron Buxton, man. We've been on this show many times talking about Byron Buxton. We talked about him in our preview shows before the season, and to be honest with you, we're not big fans. Now he is starting off hot He has proven me wrong. I was like, he's going to prove me wrong one of these seasons, but I'm not ever buying in because he has not done it yet. So you gotta sell me on this kid, man.
I mean, like, if you look at the past 3 years, so 2019 through 2020, the injury stuff is still there. So, like,
Right.
It's a small sample. It's 446 plate appearances, not counting today. It's not counting his double, dinger, and singles. We'll leave those out just for fairness.
Oh, okay.
But over that 3 years, from 2019 to 2021, he has a 120 WRC plus. That's despite the fact that he hasn't drawn a lot of walks, but it seems like he's trying to do more this year, trying to draw more walks, trying to get himself on base, generate those steals. So we've seen it over a decently large sample now where he's been hitting for power. He's been able to actually produce, even though I don't think it's ever going to be a high on base percentage type thing, but he's not striking out as much as what he once was. The power is there. So when you add together the full impact, I feel like he's a rock star. And I've been waiting for this for so long. I remember writing for Number Fire about like the Twins, their offseason approach was waiting for Byron Buxton back in 2013. I'm pretty sure that was when we were talking about that. So it's been a long time waiting for Buxton to get up here. And I think we're finally seeing it, and the sample keeps getting bigger. He keeps getting better. So I feel like we finally made it.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that injury is right around the corner, though, man. Everybody's going to get all disappointed again. But, yeah, I mean, I've always thought the talent is there. It's just never come together because of injuries for the most part. And then he does have some real bad, like, stretches of games where it's just like, ooh, man, what's going on? So,
and you can tell when they're going to happen because, like, if you watch him, his head sometimes does not move. Like, you can tell he's not looking at the pitch. Like, you can kind of predict when his bad slumps will happen. And I think, like, just watching him, you can kind of, I'm terrible at like watching film, but like you can tell with Buxton when his slumps are about to happen. So hopefully that can help you like avoid them. But I think that's beneficial. And the injury stuff, like the fear is there. Like when he had like diarrhea over the weekend and like he left a game and I was like, oh my gosh, he's going to have a concussion, going to be done. And, he has diarrhea. He's fine. So I got real worried there, and the fear is legit, but we're still good so far, at least.
All right. Hopefully you can keep it going, although not hopefully for my predictions on him. So I'll take a loss there if it means Byron Buxton arrives for real.
No losses 1 week into the season. You're good so far.
yeah.
No victory laps, no loss laps. You're good.
Well, before we move on, I'd like to give a big shout out to the pink machine that is Pepto-Bismol on behalf of Byron Buxton.
New endorsement, yeah.
Yes, we're all over.
We're not getting paid by Pepto-Bismol.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
We will be. All right.
You got something in the works there I don't know about, man?
It'll happen. Give it time.
Which works are you talking
I don't know. I'm just going to leave it out there and let the imagination run wild. So, all right, let's jump into some week one news and notes and stuff like that. And we'll start with some injury because, baby, there's a lot. I sent you the rundown a couple days ago, and there was like 5 or 6. Yeah, there's like 10 now. So this is going to take a while. No, we'll try to get to it quick. But obviously, first and biggest one of the year, and probably going to be the biggest of the year, Fernando Tatis Jr. has that shoulder subluxation. They're saying he's not going to get surgery yet. I mean, I don't know. It feels like he just should. But because he's not getting surgery yet, what do you do with him in redraft leagues? Obviously if you have an IL slot, he just goes there. But what do you do with him? Do you try to let's say you don't have one. Do you drop him? Do you try to trade him to somebody who wants to take a chance? What would you do?
I mean, I think you have to hold him given the potential that he has. But I think that the bigger move is not what you do with him, but what you do with the rest of your roster. I think you need to have a long-term solution at shortstop because sometimes we can play this game where we're streaming hitters, try to fill a void, pick up guys who have good matchups that week, et cetera, et cetera. But I think for Tatis, you need a long-term solution at shortstop or middle infield, whatever it may be, because there is good potential. Even if he does come back, he could get re-injured or the effectiveness may be down. So I would say plan as if he's not going to be there. Kind of just pretend he's not going to be there. And whatever production he does give you is a cherry on top. But I think that from a roster building perspective, you need to kind of just operate under the assumption you're not going to get the production you would have otherwise gotten, whether he's there or not.
Yeah, I agree with that. So, secondary question to this is, who gains the most from his injury on that roster? I think Kim is somebody Profar, but what are we seeing here? I think they there was rumors they were either trading for somebody or they did sign somebody. I forget. Oh, there was rumors Arcia was going to go there. That then they decided to just send him down to the minors. They're like, never mind.
Arcia. What were we thinking?
But yeah, who gains the most on that current roster right now?
I think Profar benefits a lot because he was batting 8th, and getting anybody out of 8th is huge because the 8th spot is like a suck hole for the National League, and it's just a place you don't want to be. So he's been hitting 6th, and the value of batting 6th versus the value of batting 8th is monumental. Kim's going to play a lot more. I think he could be interesting, and I'm excited to see what he can do. But I think from an immediate upgrade perspective, I think that Profar, just from a spot in the batting order perspective, really does gain a lot in not batting directly in front of the pitcher.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Kim gains a lot of value too. I think that opened up a lot of playing time for him as well. But we'll see what happens with him. He struggled a lot in the spring and stuff like that. So
yeah.
All right, moving on here.
Well, let's keep it in this division here for now. We got Joakim Soria is out with a left calf strain right now. So who are we looking at to get the bulk of these saves while he's out?
It's just a super murky situation that I like. You can take stabs because free saves are free saves.
Right.
So take stabs. Don't just throw your hands up and avoid it. But I can't tell you right now who that person will wind up being. I think from a talent perspective, Kevin Ginkel's kind of interesting just because he can get some strikeouts. So even if he's not, if you have him on your roster, probably not going to sink your ratios. He can get you some strikeouts. So I think if I were to roster someone, he might not be the most likely guy to get saves, but just from a talent perspective, I'd favor him. I don't know who's actually going to be the guy there.
Yeah, my quick tidbit on this is I like Inkel a little bit more than the rest, but Crichton is the guy who I think is there too, and then Davinsky, who is on the restricted list for personal reasons, whatever that means. But yeah, I mean, in some deeper leagues, I've gone out and grabbed 2 of these guys and just figure out which one I can, I'll hold on to him for a week and see what happens. Although Arizona needs to win some games for me to figure that out first too. So who knows?
So I'd say if they could even get a lead towards the end of the game, maybe you'd be able to get a
pretty bad.
And then
not getting a hit before the 6th inning. If you get a hit before the 6th, we're good. And that'd be an improvement from the past.
It's Oakland situation, man. You're who knows what's going to happen over there because they don't win a game. So
yeah,
whatever. And moving on here to the Orioles, Austin Hayes. I mean, I feel what else is new is due here. This guy he's so talented. I love him as a player, but he just can't stay healthy. The same mild hamstring. I say hold, if you can. Honestly, I don't think there's really much to talk about here. He should be back soon. If you can hold, I say hold. So
I think that's what you can do if you can. I unfortunately am in a situation where in a lot of leagues I can't because I just have so many injuries. So if you have a 3 IL spot league, you might be in a pinch at this point. So I think I kind of view him as being a good player, but kind of a low-ish upside player just because I don't know how much power there will necessarily be. Not a lot of hard hit balls throughout the entirety of the past couple of years. So if you have to make a spot, I feel like it would be okay to potentially cut him, but hold if you can. I think that's the correct way to phrase it. Hold if you can.
Yeah.
But sometimes we're in really desperate situations here right now.
And it's early too, so man, it's not.
I've got a week into the season, and
I've got a lot.
Everybody is desperate. The waiver wires are emptied.
I have a dynasty league where my injured league slots are filled. It's 7 guys and they're already filled. So what am I supposed to do there?
I'm right there with you, man.
Yeah.
I started off the season with Eloy in both of my main leagues. Yeah. Eloy gone. Great. Thanks.
Yep. Same here.
So we'll keep it on the hamstrings here and go with Tim Anderson. He is now on the 10-day IL. Sounds like he's probably going to return next Thursday. At least that's what he's aiming for. What are your thoughts on Anderson?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a really good player, and I think he's a great fantasy asset. So, I mean, he's in that same dynasty league where I have Lowe, so that's fun. And it's kind of indicative of where the White Sox are at right now, where they've lost a lot of really good players, and that's taking a hit on their offense. So once he does come back, the value of Anderson lower than it would have been previously, especially because if it's a hamstring, if it lingers, might not run as much. But I still think that just because he's so good, it's not going to worry you too much, but maybe lower expectations a bit on the speed side because it is specifically a hamstring injury.
Yeah. We talk about hamstrings pretty much weekly, I feel like, between baseball and football. So it is one of those things that just sits and lingers. And, some guys are okay and can work around it. Other guys just cripples their season. So, all right, what we got next, Joe?
All right, so actually, we're gonna pause this for a second. Our producer Jeff just sent us something here in the chat, and we're seeing MLB is inspecting suspicious baseballs from Trevor Bauer's latest starts. And I haven't read this yet, but my guess here is that there was some doctoring on the pitch on the balls here, and so they're looking into it to see if he cheated or whatever. That's.
How else do you think he was getting all those strikeouts with one eye closed?
Yeah, right? I mean, he basically said he was doing this. So, you kind of had to assume this is going to happen at some point this year. Yeah. And I think that was one of the risks with Bauer going in, was not just maybe they, limit innings, stuff like that, but this could happen. And he didn't hide it. He would not be a good criminal, I think, is the assessment of Trevor Bauer here.
Yeah. I don't think he cares.
No, he probably doesn't. You're right. You're right.
Just
again, he's bad criminal because of that.
Yeah. He's the serial killer that's sitting at the interrogation room. As soon as they close the door, he's just like, I did it.
Right.
And exactly. They're like, well, that was easy. Okay, well, we're not even going to offer you a random soda that we're just going to steal your DNA from later, or a cigarette. So thanks.
And I think the reason this is concerning is because if you look at Bauer's numbers before 2020, he was very inconsistent, always tinkering, stuff like that. Yep. And the hope was that he had found something, but the thing he may have found was pine tar. So that's exactly pretty concerning.
I struck Texas tea in my backyard, and I brought my backyard to LA.
So I'm reading this, and it said the umpires from the game, this last game, have collected multiple suspicious baseballs that Bauer threw, according to Trevor Rosenthal, who writes that they had visible markings and were sticky. So
I'm shocked.
There you go.
Blown away.
That could mean a lot of things.
And you, AJ,
when you're talking about balls and then being sticky and leaving marks on things.
He's a weird guy, man. I'm not going to put anything past him.
We've gone from poop jokes to
and
this.
One eye closed. I mean,
tonight.
This is a rabbit hole you do not want me to go down.
No, we're done. We're going to
go back to the subluxation.
Yes.
At least maybe that. Nope, never mind. I could work with that too.
Wow. I'm sure you can make a joke about this too. Michael Brantley has a wrist injury. Sorry.
Speaking of sticky balls.
Yeah. Sorry, Jim. Welcome to the show.
All right. Spend a Thursday night.
We're really not this much of a toilet.
Well, I started it. In fairness to you, I started it. Although I was saying facts, he definitely had diarrhea. It's stating a fact, but I did start it.
Hey, it's fine. Facts are something that I like to run with often.
All right, so Michael Brantley dealing with a wrist injury after getting hit by a pitch over the weekend, has not returned. They kept saying he's going to return Monday, he's going to return Tuesday, and he just never does. So, I mean, I don't think anybody's running out to drop this guy, but Brantley's got an injury history himself, so this is a little bit worrisome now that he hasn't returned in 5-6 days. So you'd hope this heals a little bit faster.
Yeah, he got in there today. Got a couple plate appearances. Yes, he got a hit.
Oh, nice. Okay, good.
But the reason that's doesn't mean you're totally out of the clear is it's a wrist, and anything that involves a wrist that can sap power for a long time. So I would say just kind of monitor him. I obviously you're not going to make a roster change, but keep an eye. Is he getting any barrel? He's not a big barrel guy anyway, but what's his contact, his batted ball data looking like? I would just say keep it as a red flag in your mind to keep an eye on him and see what he's doing coming back.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I have to keep dazing off because I have Super Troopers in my head and wrist injury and speed. And anyway, calf injury after getting spiked is our next topic for Mr. Bellinger. He will not be in the lineup this Friday either. At this point, IL stints got to be considered, right?
Yeah, probably. I think the good thing for him, like long term, is that it's not like one of those checklist injuries that you have. It's not a hand injury, not a wrist injury, not an oblique injury, not something that lingers. So once he gets back, he should be good to go. I know, like, Bellinger's had some rough stints for sure, but I think if you're looking like beyond once he gets back, like that should make you feel good knowing that once he is out there, you should be back to regular Cody Bellinger again.
Yeah, I agree. This isn't a major injury in my book. You just have to hope that it's going to heal fast and he doesn't go on the IL at this point. Just from it, just having to heal. Moving on here, a teammate of his, Mookie Betts, he's day to day with some back soreness. I don't know, to me, anything that involves the back is a little worrisome in my opinion. Even if they're just calling it soreness, it could be a lot of things. So I'm looking for an update or hopefully him getting in the lineup, soon before I'm not worried about this one. So
yeah, back soreness is basically the baseball equivalent to hockey's upper body injury.
Yeah.
And the guy misses like an hour. Because he plays hockey, not baseball. But big shout out. Thank you, Robert. We will do what we can to keep up the great work. Glad you love the content. Keep listening. I can't answer on the other thing, so I have to throw it out there when I can. All right. So we're talking about another massive, always injured guy, James Paxton. Lasted a whopping 1 1/3 innings this season, and he's on the IL. That's almost Buxton-esque, I feel like. I sorry, I had to throw that out there.
Anything that ends in XTON, just cursed. Like that's
basically, yeah. I mean, it's like, all right, well, this makes sense. I mean, they're saying it's not nearly as bad as last season. I mean, I feel like we've heard
that's what he
that
said
before.
However,
What are you thinking on Paxton?
I mean, he's getting a second opinion, which is never a good thing. Like if you're getting a second opinion, it means you didn't like what you heard in the first one. Yeah. So I think that's worrisome. I think it's worrisome given his injury history, given that it was like similar stuff last year. He was throwing hard before he got hurt. So like that's good. So if it does wind up being nothing, like you can feel maybe good about him then. But like I think the second opinion thing always has to get your attention.
Yeah, especially when you're James Paxton. Right. You're like, look, I know that this does not feel right. So I'm going to just get a second opinion because you're telling me it's also not right.
Right.
And I don't like that. I need to play ball.
Yeah. I mean, he's being recommended for Tommy John. So that's not good news. So moving over here to Kettle Marte, who was having a great start to the season after a miserable 2020. But he left Wednesday's game with a hamstring injury. Didn't look good either, man. He hobbled off pretty bad. So, we won't get the MRI results till probably Friday at best. But I mean, what's your thoughts about this one here?
I mean, it's annoying because, like you said, he was playing really well. And I think that if you were counting on Marte to start running again, it's definitely not going to happen now, given that injury. I would assume people probably were not banking on that. But in the off case you were, like, assuming he gets you 10 or so steals, you need to account for that elsewhere. Like, make other plans, try to acquire some speed elsewhere, because once he gets back, I think it's a massive, massive long shot that he suddenly goes back to being, aggressive on the base paths.
Yeah, I agree there. So hopefully the power can come back if that happens, because that's what he was doing. He was hitting bombs again. So it was good stuff.
This one is just painful to even talk about, because who would have predicted this? And it also sucks because he has the initials that I have, sort of. Aaron Judge. Well, the jury's out on you, pal. You suck. You're always injured. And now you're out due to general soreness. Again, hockey injury in his left side. This literally is a hockey injury. I mean, I'm not a doctor. I mean, I could call it Paxton, but that sounds pretty much like an oblique injury. Thoughts?
That's one of the red flag injuries. Like, that's one of the ones where the alarm bells go off right away. So, but like, obviously it's exciting when he's playing because he's super fun to watch and stuff like that. But that's a concern. So it's kind of like the Brantley thing where even, like let's say he magically plays this weekend. If he's out there, keep an eye on him because you need to make sure the power is there because that's another one of those injuries that's on the checklist where even when they come back, they might not be what they were previously. Like oblique injuries always scare me.
Yeah.
I feel like there's usually like 6 to 24 oblique injuries within the first couple of weeks of the baseball season. So this will not be the last one we talk about.
No, absolutely not. And Judge was a guy who we said many times, like despite his lower ADP than usual, I wasn't going anywhere near him because this just keeps happening. So him and Stanton both, and Stanton was like dirt cheap this year compared to where he usually goes, and I still didn't want him. So, all right, moving over here to the Pittsburgh Pirates, we got Brian Hayes. I got a feel for this kid, man. He started off pretty well into the year. I know short sample size, but left wrist injury. Put him on the IL. I'm reading they're hoping he's back by May, but it's really unclear at this point. He hasn't even been cleared to swing a bat. I mean, again, another one of those, like, what do you do with him if he's sitting there on your roster and you don't have room on an IL for him?
Yeah, I think it depends on like your situation. I think that with him, there might be a little bit more room for like upside to squeeze. We were talking about with Hayes before, right. A little bit more hard contact out of Hayes. I guess they're both Hayes, so it doesn't really clarify there. With Brian
Hayes without the E.
Yes, exactly. More upside there because I think that there are better odds that he steals a significant number of bases. I think the power is better as well. So I think I'd be more inclined to hold him. Like if you have both and you have to cut one, I'd probably hold Brian over Austin. But I think the upside is still there. And you're talking about the small sample size, and that's true. But the good thing is that he's done the things you want to do in that small sample size. Good numbers and the numbers that stabilize quickly, like decent places, discipline numbers, but especially good in the batted ball profile.
Yeah, no, I think he's a star in the making here. But yeah, it's just unfortunate with the wrist injury. So, AJ, finish up the injuries here, and let's move on to some more fun topics.
All right. George Springer is dealing with a grade 1 quad strain. We've talked about this a little bit as well, him being injured in general, but he has ran the bases today, and he's trying to recover from, shocker, an oblique injury. Ding, 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 ding. No whammy. Stop. Ow, my wrist and my oblique. Yeah. George Springer. What are we doing?
Rough. Well, the reason that it's so rough is that I can't just like dismiss him because he's going to play in a very good offense. I think that's super enticing. He's a very good player. Tremendous numbers for him last year, a 12.3% barrel rate, 17% strikeout rate. Like if you can combine those two numbers, that's a good batting average projection and good power projection. So the ability when he's healthy is going to be phenomenal given the context around him and given the team and given the talent. Just like, again, so concerning when I know that this specific new injury is not the oblique, but when it's involved, it's still so concerning.
Yeah, I don't know. Springer, I think they what's the right word? They didn't manage him correctly in the spring, for one. That, like, as soon as he had soreness in the side, sit him down. But they let him play through it, and then it became obviously a lot worse. So he didn't start the season, and now he gets this. So, like, I think, honestly, Toronto has nobody but themselves to blame at this point, but it is what it is. So, all right, man, let's jump into some more fun topics. Let's talk about some of these hot starts from rather, honestly, pretty unexpected places. All of these guys have been pretty popular waiver wire ads, and we'll start with probably the top here, Yermin Mercedes. Guy started out the season 8 for 8, just on fire. I was slow down a little bit, but then today goes out and hits another bomb. So, guys, is crazy. I obviously in leagues where he's got catcher eligibility, like no brainer, come on. He was added day one. But there's a lot of leagues, a lot of sites where he's only utility eligible. And I know NFBC is one, Yahoo is one. I'm not sure all of them, but I know that those two are it. What do you do with him there? Like, is he still like you just rostering him regardless, even though he eats that utility spot for you?
I mean, it depends on like what you have. Like if you have a Nelson Cruz, it's really tough to get there. Right. So if you have a Cruz, it's tough. I'd still probably try to, just because like you want to have good players in your team, if nothing else, but to block other people from having him. But like there's reason to believe in this. Like he showed good skills in AAA back in 2019. So it's not like this came totally out of nowhere. He's been in the batting order 5 of the past 6 days, hitting in the middle of that order. And like we talked about with Jimenez and Anderson before, like they need power. They need good hitters in this lineup, and he is that. So I see no reason to expect his playing time to scale back. And I think that obviously the skills are going to come back from where they are, but I think the long-term projection is still a good hitter. So I would say add him, and I think they kind of figure it out from there. Add him now and decide what to do with him after that. Once we get more information, once, maybe the injuries happen to your team that free up some space, stuff like that. I would say add him now so you have another good bat on your team.
Yeah, I'm all in with getting him. I kind of fell asleep in a couple of leagues and wasn't really paying attention to it the first couple of days and was like, wait a minute, wait, what? This guy went 8 for 8 with a bomb? Like, oh, crap. And I went out to one league. I was like, oh, he's still there. He grabbed him. I didn't even care what he had. So...
All right. Well, this should be fun because I'm going to kill this guy's name pretty bad, dude. I think it's Akil Baddoo.
Yeah.
Maybe. All right.
Got it.
Nailed it.
I
am not the terrible cupcake in that picture that's supposed to be Cookie Monster. First game was April 4th. He took the first pitch he ever saw in the majors. Out. Then he homered in the next game. So overall, he's 5 for 11 with those 2 homers, 7 RBIs, and a steal. I mean, that's a pretty good first week. I would take that. I mean, what are your thoughts on Akil?
Yeah, I think that he's really fun because you look at his minor league profile, and although like I always try to be someone who believes in what teams tell us, and the Twins told us they didn't value him that much by leaving him open for the Rule 5 draft, and like that should be a red flag. But then you look at the minor league profile, good numbers for him, showed some speed down there. Look at the spring training numbers with the Tigers, absolutely absurd. And now what he's doing in the regular season, like he's kind of forcing himself into playing time. So although the playing time not super consistent right now, he could eventually work his way into that. I think that's encouraging. The one thing I would say is that he did strike out a bit too much in the minors. He did strike out a bit too much in spring training as well, despite the power. So keep an eye on that. There could be cold streaks. So the cold streaks could lead to his playing time going down a bit. So keep an eye on that, especially just looking at the plate discipline numbers, because if they do start to slide, that could be where things start to turn in the wrong direction. But for now, ride the waves, see if this continues. And because, I mean, he's like available everywhere. Yeah. Like even in like dynasty leagues, like you can get this guy now. So I would say get him kind of like with Mercedes, like get him now, figure out what you want to do with him later on.
Yeah. You've drafted guys in the last 10 rounds of your fantasy baseball draft that
way
suck.
Worse.
So go ahead and take a stab at some of these upside dudes. I absolutely agree with that. I think I snagged Baddoo in one of my NFBC leagues over the weekend, and I was just like, yeah, whatever. I threw like $3 at him and got him, and was like, yeah, I'll figure it out later. It's $3 out of 1,000.
Why not?
So, another guy
I'm still waiting on that like number 5 pitcher for the Nats who hasn't had a chance to pitch yet because COVID. Am I dropping that guy for Akil Baddoo? Yes, the answer is yes.
Yeah, why not?
Who is the 5th starter for the Nats?
I don't even know.
Yeah,
is that Joe Ross? Like,
did he win it? I don't even know. Like, I kind of didn't look at that one.
Maybe.
Man, I was a huge Joe Ross fan like 2 years ago.
I was a Joe Ross fan like 6 years ago.
Yeah, however long ago it was, he was supposed to be good.
He's
held
like,
him way too long.
Yeah. I feel like he's my Buxton. Kryptonite.
I sold Joe Ross short. He's actually the 4th starter. Sorry, man. Joe. Kudos to you.
Fetty?
Yeah, until he gets injured.
Joe Ross, guaranteed 30-game winner this year. What could go wrong?
Right. All right. Speaking of, ex-Nationals players, I suppose, Michael A. Taylor, now with Kansas City. He started the season on a 5-game hit streak, going 8 for 20 overall with 2 bombs, 6 RBI. No steals yet, but we know those are coming. I mean, could this guy be a legit 2020 guy if he, stays healthy? Because injuries have been a big concern for him.
Yeah, I mean, the playing time should be there, which is good because he's not really blocking anybody of major note right now. So I think that's good. And Kansas City's not bad. So I don't think they have any incentive to just shoot for youth. So might as well roll him out there. If he's
they
playing
traded
well.
for Benintendi, so they think they're awesome.
Right. And they're fun. I think that's the word to use for them.
AJ.
Jorge Soler's fun. So they're a fun team. And I think there's value in that. But Michael Taylor last year, 13.8% barrel rate. That's pretty good. Strikeout rate, manageable. It was 25% in the spring. So I think the power is legit. He went 0 for 2 trying to steal in the spring. So I think that if he were to fall short of one of those, it actually might be the steals, which is weird because he's crazy fast. I just don't know.
Well, and Kansas City likes to run, or at least they used to.
Yeah.
That was their game, but now they went after power. It seems like it's kind of odd.
Right.
I don't know.
It's weird. It's weird, but I think for some reason, I don't know if this is stupid. I'm actually more concerned about the speed than the power, which is probably a good problem to have, I guess.
Well, I feel on how you drafted him, you might have drafted him or picked him up hoping you got more steals. I mean, how he fits in your team.
Exactly.
Yeah, I feel like Kansas City was just very, adamant about we're going against power. We're going to stick with steals because now nobody else is stealing. Well, guess what?
Right.
KC's still stealing.
Right.
Yeah, we might not hit homers, but our park's it's a pitcher's park, so suck it.
Stealing in bullpen, that was their thing, man.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, next guy we got here is Nate Lowe. He's collected an RBI in the first 5 games this season, giving him a total of 14 on the year. That's pretty solid to start the year. 14. There might even be some teams that don't even have 14 runs scored, I feel like. So Nate Lowe's just better than a whole team
Miami
of people.
At least over the first weekend.
And by peoples, I mean batters, clearly.
Right.
Because I don't know where the hell peoples came from. Probably you, stick man.
Keep drinking, AJ.
Oh wait. Well, speaking of potty, see, we got a little roll of toilet paper here for the Double Deuce.
It never ends.
Perfect.
Right.
Very fitting.
I digress. Nate Lowe, do we like him or not?
I think the power is legit. I think that's encouraging. I don't know if the runs batted in will stick because I think this offense long term is probably gonna be pretty bad. So I'm not sure if the context for him will stay as good. And also Texas's ballpark this time of year is a hitter's park because every other park is bad for hitting because it's so cold there. But once those get warmer, it becomes a pitcher's park. So the offense going to regress. The park will become more of a pitcher park relative to the rest of the league. That'll regress. But I think he has legit power. He's shown the power every stop. I think there is a very serious lid on his ceiling though because he's not going to be a high batting average guy with that strikeout rate. Probably not going to be a great offense, which does limit him with regards to RBIs and runs scored. So there are very obvious limitations to his ceiling, but power's power. And I think it's hard to turn that down. If it's available to you, take it. Just keep in mind that not going to be a good batting average guy, and I wouldn't expect the RBI production to stick around the whole year.
No, I mean at that rate, no. But yeah, I mean. He's a talented guy, and I'm kind of surprised, Tampa gave up on him so easily. But, they did, and now Texas gets to reap the benefits, and so
sweet.
They're still going to be bad, but
right, less bad.
Maybe he'll be okay.
We have at least one guy that can now hit RBIs, so that's cool.
Swimming in them.
Yeah.
All right, moving over here to Tyler Naquin, Cincinnati Red. Man, he's been swinging a hot bat. And my dynasty league that I'm in, I've got 4 outfielders that got hurt within the first 3 days. And I'm just out there on the waiver wire. I was like, well, Naquin hit a bomb a couple days ago. Sure, click. And then he hits 2 and then another one. So he's up to 4. And the guy I'm playing is just are you serious? And I'm like, yeah, I mean,
Thanks. Thanks
I
for that pick.
I know what I'm doing. No, I had no idea.
Yeah, I'm serious. I would have drafted him if I could have.
Right. I mean, he was considered a backup outfielder, but at this point, he's just like playing himself into the starting lineup right now. But like, how long does this continue for him? Because he's not known as a guy who can do this.
I think like it could stick around because it's a good ballpark for hitting for sure, which is good. And also, like, you look at his numbers last year, he was super unlucky. His expected weighted on base average was 323, whereas actual WOBA was 268. So clearly a lot of bad luck there for Naquin, now going to a team where, like you said, like he's earning himself playing time. Good park for hitting. He was in a good park for hitting previously too. So it's not like just like total, situation change for him. But I don't think it's that outrageous to think that he could be pretty good. Another guy who will strike out a decent amount. So you're not expecting him to be like a huge contributor across the board as far as every category, but better offense here, I think, than the one we were talking about with Lowe. So I don't think it's totally outrageous to think that Naquin could actually be a hitter, not because of what he's done this year, but because what he did last year, he got crazy, crazy unlucky there.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, like I haven't looked a ton like into the deep numbers for Naquin, but I just I figured I'd take a shot, and it seems to be working out. And I mean, since they got a pretty good offense. Like everybody wants to like discredit that, but like they've been putting up runs, man. Like lots of I've seen double digits from them a couple times already this season. So that's going to be a fun offense to watch for sure. And if he can stay in it, that's going to be a good pickup. So, all right, AJ, finish it up here, man.
All right, last guy we got here is basically the Mets version of Joe Ross, and that is Steven Matz.
I don't know if I go
even though he's not with the Mets anymore. I mean, he had a great first start, striking out 9 in 6 1/3. He only allowed 1 run. Now, I feel like we have seen some flashes of Matz and the greatness that he has the potential for, but what are you taking from this one start?
I think there's some good and bad. The good is that he leaned into his changeup. That used to be a good pitch for him. So seeing him use that changeup a lot is good. Also had really good velocity there. And like his changeup used to be a good pitch. So I think that having good velocity, leaning into that changeup, making it look like it was before 2020 is a positive. He also had a 15.4% swinging strike rate. So good numbers there. The reason that I still think there's room for skepticism is he did it against Texas, and Texas is bad overall, but they're especially horrendous against lefties because they're a very lefty-heavy team. So I think that I always try to have like red flags in my head of teams who are so bad where I need to take performances against them with a grain of salt. And Texas against the lefty, very much one of those. So I would say it's a situation where I want to keep watching him, want to see if he can continue to do what he does against a competent big league team. And if he can do that, then I'm good. Because there were changes that he made that could lead to improvements. I just want to see it happen against a non-Texas team, basically.
Yeah, so real quick throw in, I just pulled up here. Looks like Trevor Rosenthal could miss at least 12 weeks. This is courtesy of Closer Monkey. They had him as their record-breaking closer signing, and now he's considering thoracic outlet surgery, if I pronounce that right, and I am able to read. Yeah, so 12 weeks for that, and now they're looking at Diekman, Romo, and Yosmiro Pettit. We already talked about Oakland not really winning games anyways, so just had to throw that out there real quick.
Yeah, good luck.
Like we were talking about red flags with injuries before, thoracic outlet syndrome surgery is like the number one red flag. Like that basically ended Phil Hughes' career. So I mean, not Phil Hughes, but that's number one on the red flag checklist for injuries.
Yeah, this sucks, man. He was being drafted as the first closer off the board in a lot of leagues. Even over Hader in some cases. So that's it's pretty rough. Anyway, let's jump into some just a general pitching question now that we finally got to a pitcher that's off to a hot start, and because there's not a lot of them that weren't expected. And I think the biggest reason we're seeing that is we're seeing a lack of innings pitched from a lot of these guys. And one of our writers over Fantasy Six Pack, Tyler Thompson, this was after I even picked the topic, wrote an article about the innings pitched trends. And we're seeing from 2007 to now, it's gone anywhere between 5.8 and 6 in the early part of that. Suddenly, in the last 5 years, has dropped to 4.8 innings pitched per game start. So, I mean, what are we doing here with these starting pitchers, and how do we manage our pitching staffs now? With these guys not going deep enough into games to really matter for much of anything.
I think it's going to be similar to last year, because you look at pitch counts. They are very there are some weird similarities, like guys getting the exact same pitch counts as they had in the openers last year. I think there was someone who had gone, I think might have been Glasnow, had basically the same pitch count in his first start this year as he did last. I think it was 5 pitches apart. So I think what we're going to see is once we get into May, guys probably going around 100 pitches or so. But the big change this year, we might see more of the 6-man rotations and stuff like that. Guys getting pushed back a day, getting more spot starts. Mm-hmm. So I think that it does force you to reevaluate some things, and it definitely does alter the outlook. But what I would say is that if you have adjusted it over time to that, it's not going to require a big deviation from last year, because I would expect it to be pretty similar to last year, just based on the pitch counts we've seen from guys so far the first couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is why you saw – this is why you saw those top 15 pitchers that you would hope to rely on getting 6-7 innings more times than not go super early. I mean, you used to be able to wait on pitching. You can't really do that anymore. Your back end pitchers now, if they hit 90 pitches by the 5th inning, they're just going to get pulled. And the managers don't care. And another side of this topic is that, we years ago, right, we saw quality starts become super popular. And I was one who advocated for it and changed all of my leagues to it. Even got my points league to kind of to shift the scoring to more of a quality starts than a wins. Now we give points for wins still, but quality starts matters more. But now quality starts, because guys aren't going deep enough to get quality starts. At least a win, you only need 5, right? But quality starts, you need 6. So I wonder, what's your opinion on the quality start versus win still, or is there something else that might be better now that we should be adjusting to?
I think finding something better would be very tough. So I don't know what I could get there, but I think that there's value in both wins and quality starts. Because you think about it, from a quality of play perspective as a fantasy baseball player, it does take some talent to identify pitchers who will be in position for wins, because you have to account for team context, you have to account for bullpen with stuff like that. So there is some skill in fantasy baseball in identifying guys who can get wins, but there's also skill in identifying guys who get quality starts. Like Lance Lynn this year was a guy who, from the skills perspective, probably went higher than he should have, but because he was going to go 105 and he's this massive horse, you could count on him, and I didn't take him where he's going personally, because I prefer to go sell out for strikeouts and stuff like that. But you could justify where he's going.
You just threw a complete game, 11K shutout today, by the way.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
seems pretty good.
Great pull there.
Glad I took him where he was going.
Right. I didn't.
I think in both of my leagues,
awesome.
actually.
Right, but that's why you could have justified doing that, because you knew he was going to go deep. So whether it's wins or quality starts, there was still skill in identifying them. And this is translatable to other sports too. There's stuff in fantasy football that it doesn't take a skill to catch a pass, like a PPR league, like a slot guy with a 2-yard ADOT. They're going to be overvalued relative to actual base or actual football, but it does take skill to identify that. So I think that you can kind of go either way. I personally probably do lean towards quality starts still, but I think that it takes skill no matter what, even if they're not as easy to predict as something like strikeouts and stuff like that.
Yeah, AJ, I'll let you give your opinion on this because I've got something else I want to say too before we move on.
I think, I mean, I've always been, I guess, a quote unquote traditionalist with the wins. Excuse me. But, with some help and prodding and force from Joe, I've agreed that quality starts are worthwhile or were more worthwhile.
I might have bribed him. I'm just kidding.
Lots of money came my way.
Lots of beer.
This is how I drink beers with, stick figures on them because of the money that this guy put out. I don't even know. I probably could draw better labels. No, I'm just kidding. This is a great label, Stickman Brews. Keep them coming. I just think that I understand and agree with your point that it does take some skill to pick the guys you think are going to get the wins. At the same time, I feel like a lot of the shift that we've seen with the quality starts, you're getting the starters that are going to get the quality starts, but they don't have to be in line for the win to get that stat and get you those points or that category if you've switched to that in your leagues. If there was a way, I mean, I'm trying to think here. So it's, I've looked at some of my categories leagues more as bullpen heavy leagues than starters. Yeah, I know I'm going to lose on Ks most weeks, if not every week, but my ratios are going to be better. And I'm trying to play the odds of getting those two categories as opposed to the one and possibly the saves hold category as well. But those are guys that can come in and your starter's already got the quality start, but he may have left in a tied game. Now you're pulling this bullpen guy, who is either a potential long reliever who can pitch at least 2 innings and then be that bridge from the starter to the closer if they've gone ahead. So he's the guy that's getting the win. So I do think it's a little harder to predict the wins. And it is a very skilled art to be able to do that with the starters because it is such a crapshoot now, especially if they're not even going 5 innings. I also think that it's early in the season. The guys are coming off of a season that we've never seen before. With
That's
60 games
I like
to this pandemic. And, I know we've had the shortened seasons because of strikes and whatever, but this is, to be cliche, unprecedented times for sports, for everything. And I think that this 4.8 innings per game is a product of that. These guys are trained individuals who are creatures of habit. They are used to going out every 5th day, pitching their innings. If they get their asses lit up, they get lit up. Sometimes they get pulled in the second, sometimes in the first, or early in the second, like James Paxton, but that's injury related because it's Paxton. But other times the manager's just like, hey, you know what? F off. This is your problem. You figure it out. And they leave him out there because they don't want to tax the hell out of their bullpen. Because, they know that the next day they're going with Ryan Stanek, who's going to be an opener.
Talking about Luis Castillo on opening day. That was brutal.
Kyle Gibson going a third in an inning.
God, he got his
135 ERA.
Castillo, they just left in there. They were just like, you gave up 4 runs or 7 runs in the first inning. Deal with it.
I'm very, very proud of myself for not dipping into that Kyle Gibson well, thinking, man, I just really need to get some starters today. No, I I
different
knew better,
starters.
and I actually listened to
Oh,
myself
good.
for knowing better.
Be proud of yourself.
Greg
Exactly,
from our
yes.
league, if
Good-
you're
good-
listening,
Fucking great job.
AJ, don't be a Greg.
Yeah, yeah.
This is a guy who
exactly.
streams every starting pitcher he possibly can, and
But-
so
I mean, I'll get off my little soapbox here in a few minutes.
now
The openers thing also kills the
Yes.
quality starts.
Tampa, thanks.
So that's another thing that we've seen. And those guys sure as shit can't get a win. So that's just like a ultimate kick in the dick. It's like, oh, you want to
Well, if anything, it actually helps.
Not only are you going to burn a starting position this week because you picked this guy up, he's only going to go maybe 2 innings, hopefully get you 3 Ks and not get his ass beat around to kill your ratios. Anyway, all right.
Well, what's funny about the starter thing is the opener is that it's usually not like the guy who would normally start. It's usually like some bullpen guy. So your starter might actually get innings 3 through 7 still, or 3 through 6, and he'll get the win. So like it's just a weird thing. But real quick on an alternative that I've heard from many people, innings pitched. It's a totally different ball game, and I'm not sure I like it. I'm not sure I hate it. I'm sort of like, it's interesting. It brings a lot of value to so many different players. Those really good middle relievers, right? The long relievers that we know of. Those guys get so much more value in that scenario. And so like these crappy back end starters that we keep streaming off and on, we're not worried about them anymore. Like, and they don't kill your ratios, right? So like, I actually think I like it. I'm just not sure I'll switch to it because I'm a big quality start guy still.
Yeah.
But it is getting frustrating. And if this trend of the innings dropping more and more every year goes, like, you can't do it. Like, basically, you have to have a DeGrom and Cole to get quality starts, and that's super frustrating.
Yeah,
the 10 guys that are getting quality starts.
The one concern I have with innings is that you're kind of like, there's a heavy correlation innings and strikeouts. So you probably need to shift to like strikeout rate or Ks per 9.
Ks 9, yeah.
Yeah. So like you have to make a shift elsewhere, but like otherwise, I think that makes sense.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, I know a lot of people, I put the question out on Twitter, like right after the first couple of days of baseball, and a lot of people were just like, yeah, go innings pitched. And I know a guy who runs a lot of different, he commissions a bunch of leagues for people. That's what he does. And he said a lot of his leagues have switched to that and they all enjoy it a lot more. So it's just a much different mindset of like drafting and in-season adjustments and things like that. So, but yeah, I think it would be interesting. I wouldn't mind like trying a league out next year. I don't want to switch any of my new leagues, my existing leagues to it. I would maybe like try one just for shits and giggles and see how it goes. And then maybe try to convince my league and bribe AJ again. All right, let's switch over to here to some bullpens and closers.
All right,
roles.
I used to be the closer chart jockey for Fantasy Six Pack, and because of COVID, I just stopped caring. So someone,
really the reason?
thankfully, no, not one of the reasons.
Thanks, Travis, for picking up this slack.
Travis, thank you
Travis,
so much
awesome.
for taking over and making me look sort of good for my swan song. Anyway, I'm no longer doing it because Travis did such a great job. We let him do it again this year, and I did not stand in his way. Toronto, we've got Julian Mayweather has been the guy after many thought it was going to be Jordan Romero. Do you think this continues the rest of the season, or are we going to see closer committee issues here?
It'll be a combo, I would assume, because I think that like we saw Romano be in there in the 9th, like for the first one, and then we've seen other times where he's gotten like the high leverage spot. Like I think there was one time, I think it was the 8th inning. It was like the 1-2-3 batters. Like it was the tough guys in the order. Romano came out for that. So there will be situations where you get the toughest part of the order coming up in the 9th inning in a safe situation. He'll probably get the save there, but like Merriweather's going to get a good amount of saves. So I would say both are worth having. Like I don't see any reason not to have to disregard them because saves are saves. I'd probably lean slightly towards Merriweather because it seems like they might not have him as highly viewed, which is a good thing for him because he might be more okay being in that ninth inning. But I think that both are worth having, and I think we're going to be dealing with this all year long for sure.
Okay. Keeping it in the AL East here, we're going to dem Baltimore O's. So after Hunter Harvey went down, there was some expectation of committee, but Cesar Valdez has gotten the nod pretty much the majority of the time. Definitely did over the first weekend and got both save chances. He didn't get the save last night, but went into extras. He ended up with the win. So here again, the relievers are more valuable than your starters. What are you thinking about Baltimore?
Well, I think that, he didn't get the save there, but like they brought him in for a high leverage situation.
Yes.
I think that signal was big because it seems like every time they're in a spot where they need a dude, it's him. So basically what they're telling us is they think that he is that guy. And like, he went 2 1/3, which is like, it's pretty long. So that was interesting too. So I think they value him, which is good. And, they're not a terrible team. I think with Anthony Santander back, with Trey Mancini back, like, they're not the worst team in baseball. So they'll have some save chances. And I think if they're going to tell us that he's the guy, I'll react to it.
Yeah, it's funny. Real quick before we move on, AJ, it's funny because the manager came out early, like late in spring, was like, "Oh, it's going to be a committee, blah blah blah." And then after like Cesar Valdez gets a couple of saves, press was like, "So what's up?" And he was like, "Yeah, I might have lied." I was like, "Wow!" Actually came out and said it.
I respect it. I respect it so much.
I laugh so hard because usually managers will be
trying
like,
to pull a fast one.
Yeah, because usually managers will still be like, "Well, no, like we're still considering our options" or some shit like that. And no, he just came out and was like, "Yeah, I might have been lying a little bit."
Salute. I respect it.
Yeah,
but yeah, Mayweather, by the way, went for over $100 in like every NFBC league and like a whole bunch of like fabs that went out on Sunday this past weekend, and I was not having any part of it. I was like, enjoy, because I still think with you, like Romero is still going to get involved, and Valdez was a lot cheaper because he's on the Orioles. But he still went for like 70 in a couple of leagues, and I was like, nah, not this early. Those are guys where I'm just like, no, I'm not. I want guaranteed saves as I'm paying that much money for a guy. So
guaranteed saves is almost as easy.
Well, but you know what I mean. Like
wins.
The manager needs to come out and like say this is the next guy, right? Like if Philly came out a couple of days from now and said Neris sucks, even though he's been great, and then said, he's been good so far, man. So don't deny it. He's been good this year so far. It's early, but he's been good so far. But like if they came out and just said, this next guy is up. He's our guy.
We didn't bring Archie Bradley here to be a setup guy.
Well, but Neris hasn't.
Or did you, liar? Okay.
Anyway, Padres, finish it up.
Padres, San Diego Chicken. How surprised are you to see Mark Melancon getting the save chances this early in the season?
I think like it kind of makes sense if you think about it from like a strand rate perspective. So the way you look at strand rate is you expect a better strand rate for guys with high strikeout rates, lower strand rates for guys with low strikeout rates. Melancon doesn't get strikeouts. So the situations where you want him in the game are to start an inning. You don't want him to be that like that fireman to come in. Like Drew Pomeranz, he can be that fireman. He gets strikeouts. Like that's awesome. So I think from that perspective, it makes a lot of sense that Melancon would be the closer. He's got a lot of experience there. Although he doesn't get strikeouts, like he's still fine as a pitcher. So I wouldn't be shocked if he winds up, holding down that job. But if they're in a situation where they've got guys on base, I don't think he sniffs the field. So I think that's the way to view it, where if it's a traditional situation where nobody's on base, starting off the ninth, 2-run lead, probably going to be Melancon. But if they need guys, they need a strikeout with guys on base, I don't think he comes anywhere near the field. So probably going to be still like a committee-esque thing, but most of the traditional stuff will probably go to Melancon.
Yeah, I agree with that. I heard that near the end of the spring where like, they were thinking Melancon might come in and do that and just be like the safer guy.
Yeah.
Because he's not a high leverage guy anymore. This is not his game. So, all right, man, let's move on and finish up with some DFS Q&A, man. We're going to put you on the spot here.
Love
and we'll talk about some FanDuel. You got it behind you on the board. So first question, how do you manage your starting pitching options? And like not every day, is opening day where it's like loaded with aces. Like, what do you do on those days where it's kind of muddled with just kind of meh guys?
Yeah, you have to decide if they actually are meh guys. And to me, that revolves around diving into them and deciding what their most relevant sample is. So by that, what I mean is looking at their pitch mix, going to Fangraphs, seeing the pitches that they're using and seeing what have they done since they became the pitcher they are now. So like Tyler Glasnow, he's added a slider this year. Ideally, my sample for Glasnow would be just 2021 to see what he's done in the start since he added that slider. Not always going to be possible because you're dealing with super small samples there, but I would say determine what the pitcher's most relevant sample is and see what they've done in the quickly stabilizing categories in that time. So strikeout rate, walk rate, batted ball numbers, skill interactive ERA, those numbers stabilize pretty quickly. So if I'm looking at like tomorrow's main slate, the most relevant samples I have for most guys wind up being like 6 or so starts. But I'm okay with that personally for DFS because you can get ahead of some things. You can be reactive to what pitchers are doing recently. Yeah, you're dealing with small samples, but I think given the numbers you're looking at there with strikeout rate, walk rate, skill interactive ERA, you can afford to look at smaller samples. So deciding who is in the best form based on their current pitch mix, look for strikeouts and kind of go from there.
Well, what do you do? Like, do you look at obviously like, you got guys playing, opponents, right? So, I mean,
yeah,
you don't want the guy, even if he's got all those good numbers, right? Playing the Dodgers, like you got a guy playing against Oakland who's struggling hard. And now, like, you're clearly going against Oakland, right? I mean, like that's even if the numbers might be slightly worse.
Right. Yeah. So like for me, it's a combination of looking at what they've done paired with the opponent. I don't I care about team strength, but the bigger thing for me is strikeout rate. Like I will target an opposing team that has a good WRC plus if they strike out a lot. Like Oakland actually, if you look at their numbers since the start of last year, they do have a good WRC plus, but they strike out a lot. And so I can feel good using pitchers facing them because they do strike out quite a bit. So obviously the matchups come into play. I'm not going to target pretty much anyone against the Dodgers because they don't strike out. Same thing with the Padres. But figuring out what the pitcher is like first and then translating that to, do they get a boost in their matchup or do we need to downgrade them because of who they're facing?
Yeah, I agree with that tenfold. So,
okay. So changing off a little bit here, do you wish that the catcher and first base positions were actually split, or do you feel it's more of an advantage?
I mean, like from a fun perspective, do you want to roster a catcher in DFS? No,
all the time.
I mean, like
all the time. That's why I lose money.
Except for Mercedes.
Yeah, him. I use Will Smith all the time, but that's the luxury is I can use Will Smith, except when Kershaw's catching because Kershaw's the worst. Like I get very annoyed that he doesn't let Will Smith catch. It's a major
opening day. The fact that like Will Smith, we did a show last week where we talked about opening day rosters, and we were like, why the hell is it Will Smith starting? And then I dawned on me, I was like, oh, it's Kershaw.
And like Bueller's the same too. Like. It's very annoying. Anyway, that's the luxury is you can still use Will Smith if you want to, but you don't have to use Wilson Ramos if it's a small slate. So I don't want to use a catcher. So I'm ecstatic personally that I don't have to. So I can, like, again, if you find a dude, if he fits well with your stacks, go ahead. But like from a happiness of play perspective, get catchers all the way out of my life.
You sound like AJ, and he wants to get rid of tight ends. He wants to get rid of catchers. And
I don't want to get rid of tight ends.
You've said that before. You're like, we should get rid
of them. When was before?
Like last year? You were like, tight ends suck. Just get rid of them. Yeah.
Maybe. I think it might have been before last year, but
okay. Either way, you've said it. All right. So as a noob and very inexperienced baseball DFS player, what's a piece of advice you give to a novice like myself?
never think about floor. Floor doesn't matter. Like if you think about floor, you're going to lose. You need to think about ceiling. And so like a good example of this is Jed Lowry. Like a couple years ago when he was good, healthy Jed Lowry for the A's a couple years ago, got a lot of doubles, scored runs. He get you 12.5 points on FanDuel. He was a good player from a floor perspective, but he wasn't hitting dingers. He wasn't getting bombs, and you need that upside. So I think that both for pitchers and for hitters, you never want to look at floor. So like Kyle Hendricks, amazing pitcher, so good, like so fun to watch because he's so skilled, but that doesn't translate to daily fantasy because it doesn't have the biggest ceiling because he doesn't get strikeouts. So if you're like reading analysis that says, I like this hitter because he has a good floor, proceed with caution. I don't think that's great advice. No hitters have good floors. Pitcher, if they have a good floor, they better have a good ceiling too. Like Jose Barrios today, I thought had a very good floor, but the reason I was okay using it was because I thought his ceiling was tremendous facing that Mariners team. So don't focus on floor. Even like in cash games, like if you're playing where half the fields gets cashes, even there I'd be hesitant to look at floor because you need to find players who have the ability to erase the mistakes you're going to make. And you're not going to get that from 2 Jed Lowry doubles. And again, I love Jed Lowry, huge fan, just not someone I want to use in DFS.
What about 3 Jed Lowry doubles?
I mean, then it's 18 points. A home run is 18.7. So 3 doubles is equivalent to 1 home run.
So this is me just asking personally because like I don't play MLB DFS because basketball and MLB are like tops for me. I'm just like, God, I can't do it. They're so tough, man. Like basketball is another level because the lineup scratches 10 minutes before I'm sitting down to eat dinner. No, I can't do it. Baseball, I've tried a couple times and have failed miserably. Maybe I'm not studied enough in it, but I wonder so how do you pick how do you figure out who's got the most upside for the day? Like obviously like you could just go after the studs, but where are those value? Like how do you figure out who the value upside guys are?
So stacking. I think that the way to view it is hitters can have individual upside, but they can also have upside because their offense is projected to be good. So I think that the way to view that is you have 1 pitcher and then you have 8 hitter slots on FanDuel. I would try to make as few hitters in that lineup be one-offs. I don't want to have 1 Mets hitter, 1 Reds hitter, 1 Marlins hitter, etc. I want to have, if possible,
you're a big stack fan. Okay.
Right. I want to have 4 Mets, 4 Reds, cash out. Like that's what I want. I want to have as few one-offs in my lineup as humanly possible. If you do that, what you're doing is maybe the individual hitter may not have a ton of upside, like Jeff McNeil
might.
Right, exactly, because they're going to get.
I've heard that before.
Increased volume. Yeah, exactly. So you're getting upside via the volume. So it's either upside via themselves, what they can do with power or speed, or also upside via having such a good context via their matchup, via the park, via the weather. That's the other way to get around that too.
Yeah. So I have another question, but Robert Williams has a question here about online for optimizers. Would you sort by value or projected ceiling to make a GPP?
So I don't use I work for Numberfire. They have optimizers. I don't use them. I think that projections are supremely flawed in most sports, but I think specifically so in baseball because everything revolves around stacks and pitchers. So I think, Robert, if you're looking at an optimizer for pitcher, fine. I would sort by like 75th to 90th percentile outcome. Like I know Daily Roto, I'm pretty sure has like 75th percentile outcomes or something like that. Like that's awesome. If you can find that, go for it. That's great. But overall, projections are tough because you're usually getting a median projection and that's not going to provide a lot of value for you. So for pitcher, it's more okay. But for hitters, identify the offenses you want to target based on their matchups, based on the pitcher they're facing, if that's what I just said, based on the park, based on the weather, especially this time of year, because cold weather is terrible for offenses. So identify the best.
About Colorado sucking right now because it's cold.
Right. It was 49 degrees like 2 days ago. And it was like 68 today. So it was a weird ride for sure. Arizona, I'm not sure they could hit if it were 100 degrees in Colorado, but that's whatever. But like identify the teams you want to stack and then identify the hitters within that stack that you want to use. I think that would be the way I'd look at it as opposed to looking at projections for baseball.
And you're obviously trying to target like more guys at the top of the lineups than you are at the bottoms. Like that's just a given. So it's a given for daily, for fantasy in general.
In general, I've become more loose with that. Partly because Byron Buxton was batting lower in the order back in the day.
They shifted Buxton to
DFS,
the 9,
right? I mean, there's values,
right?
Didn't
so
care.
like if they have upside,
right.
I will use a batter batting like 7th. That's fine. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like totally okay. And like when you're stacking 4 guys from a lineup, you inherit like you're not going to get the top 4 from a salary perspective most of the time.
Too much.
So you're just dipping lower to begin with. So it depends on the context, but like if a guy has individual value, I'm trying to think of a good example. Like Dominic Smith, I think would hit 8th at times last year for the Mets. He had power. So I'd be okay using him. But like you want that guy to have upside regardless of where he's hitting.
So Robert actually had another question. He said, how do you go about making your lineups? And that was another question I had for you. Like, do you start with your hitters or do you start with your pitchers usually?
Pitcher first, always pitcher.
Yeah.
So like basically if I'm mapping out tomorrow's slate, I'm going to decide which pitchers I want to use. So I'm going to manually list out Joe Musgrove, probably Zach Wheeler, undecided because he's facing the Braves. It's kind of tough.
Yeah.
Maybe some Tyler Mahle. I don't know. Lance McCullers. I'm going to list out the pitchers I want to use and then decide which stacks I want to pair them with. And like, if you're multi-entering, I will actually list out Musgrove, Diamondbacks, Reds, Musgrove, Diamondbacks, Red Sox, Musgrove, Diamondbacks, Mets, et cetera, and making sure I'm hitting the right combinations. So for me, it always starts with pitcher, identifying the pitchers I want to use. I don't care about what their salary is. Like, if they're good, and you use them. And I'm usually spending a pitcher as a result of that. But identify pitcher first, then identify the offenses you want to stack. And then after that, get into the individual batters within those stacks that you want to use.
Okay. So I think you basically answered our next question, which was favorite pitchers for tomorrow. But is there anybody else you're looking at besides those guys that you already mentioned, Mahle and Wheeler and
Musgrove's the number one guy for me. I think, tomorrow. I think he has to be. He's facing the Rangers. We talked about before about how the offense is not necessarily ideal.
Man, they got Lowe.
Yeah, that's all they need. All you need is Lowe.
14 RBIs. Let's do it.
All you need is Lowe and Gallo. You're good. But they strike out quite a bit, so I think that's beneficial for Musgrove, who's been like discussed. We were talking before about finding each pitcher's most relevant sample, and Musgrove is actually since the start of last year, but a 34% strikeout rate. That's awesome. So I think Musgrove, the number one pitcher for me by a good amount. I think you consider the other guys, but like if you're dabbling in DFS, trying one lineup, give me Joe Musgrove in that spot.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So who is your favorite team stack for tomorrow then?
I think it's actually the same, going back to the Padres. I know that there's no Tatis, which stinks because it does downgrade the entire offense. Having one less elite hitter makes everyone worse. There's fewer runs scored, fewer RBIs for them, so that stinks. But I still think that they're in a pretty good spot against Kohei Arihara. He didn't look super impressive in his debut. Not a guy who projected to be a super high strikeout pitcher. So the Padres, even without Tatis, still a very good offense. I think that Hosmer, the changes I've hated Eric Hosmer my entire life, but I'm a believer now.
Too.
Because
I actually drafted him this year for the first time.
I did
ever.
Too. In a 10-team league, I drafted Eric Hosmer. It was wild. I was blown away myself. I was like, what is this?
Holy shit, have I been drinking? What did I just do?
I was drinking, but
I think
still
it was
like,
I need to drink as a result of this. I need to drink because I drafted Eric Hosmer, but hey, it's good. So I think the Padres are great. I would say Cleveland is okay. I think their offense sucks, but it's a good matchup for them. And then the Angels, because Dunedin projects to be kind of a hitter-friendly park, and it looked like it played that way tonight. So I would say Padres 1, Cleveland 2, Angels 3 for me tomorrow.
Cool. All right.
Offshoot question. Dunedin, the new location for the 2021 All-Star game? Yay? Nay?
They said Colorado. I want to go to Denver.
Yeah,
man.
Colorado.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I was supposed to
go to. We're gonna have home run derby records broken.
Byron Buxton will be the one breaking it. Guaranteed.
Yeah. Byron Buxton.
It's like we've got.
Can we please just get some Joey Gallo out there and just absolutely demolish the ball?
Absolutely.
That would be so fun to watch.
I was supposed to have my bachelor party in Denver in July of last year. Have not had my bachelor party yet. So they need to put the All-Star game there the year after, maybe when things are more open again. So I can go to Colorado and actually enjoy a legit bachelor party.
Yes. Well, Colorado is awesome.
All right, so we got a question real quick before my last question for you is, what's up with Franmil Reyes and Andres Jimenez?
I like Franmil personally.
I think they're fine.
I like Franmil. I think he's awesome. I think that actually he's probably a pretty good play for tomorrow. I know he's not had like the best start of the year, but he's a guy who gets a lot of barrels, and like they haven't had a lot of great matchups. Cleveland hasn't so far. They've had one good matchup so far, and they did pretty well. I mean, Jose Ramirez did well in it, but I think that Reyes is a good option at $2,800. I would say we talked about Jurickson Profar benefiting from Tatis being out. He moves up in the order. Probably going to bat sixth or so. He's $2,500 on FanDuel tomorrow. I think that can definitely work. He's not regarded as being a high upside guy, but he can actually put the ball in the air a bit. So I think that Profar is not the worst person to consider. He actually also, maybe is it a Jurickson Profar revenge game tomorrow? Oh, it is. Okay. So there you go. Jurickson Profar revenge game tomorrow. Nick Senzel, I don't think is the worst option at $2,800. And then if you want some Blue Jays, Lourdes Gurriel and Teoscar Hernandez, two guys I would consider there as well.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. So that was that last question we had there about best values this tonight or for tomorrow. Sorry. But yeah, Reyes, he's struggled for the start of the year, but again, short sample size, guys. Don't overreact there.
Guaranteed 2 homers tomorrow for Franmil.
Jimenez was another guy like he had a good spring, a lot of hype. You were hoping for some steals from him, but I think if you drafted him as late as you did, you can probably hang on to him for a little bit, unless there's just an absolute stud guy out there to pick up. You're hoping things turn around for this team. I don't think it's gonna be 5-6 games rough for most teams. I don't think this is gonna be the entire how they play the entire year. And we got the questions flying in here, man, so the show's not ending apparently. So what,
bring them on.
You see it there. What team are you completely avoiding for stacks tomorrow?
So I think if we're talking about like teams that might be kind of popular, I don't know. I think that the way to look at this is I want to maximize balls in play. So I'm targeting pitchers with low strikeout rates and low walk rates. Mm-hmm. So if you identify pitchers with high strikeout rates or high walk rates, that's kind of a bummer. Like the Reds tomorrow, I think that they're fine, but they're facing Taylor Widener, and he has kind of a high walk rate, and he's got not the lowest strikeout rate. So what you get there is you get a lower number of balls in play, which means fewer opportunities for those upside plays we were talking about before, like home runs and stuff like that. So I would say identify the pitchers who allow the most balls in play and see if you want to stack against them. And conversely, like I'll stack against Justin Dunn. He does walk a lot of guys. Like I can definitely make some changes for sure based on pitchers who do walk a lot of guys. But I think that if I'm looking for places where things could fall short, I think you want to look at the pitchers who don't allow a lot of balls in play, just because there's fewer chances for those true upside plays there.
Yeah, I mean, like teams I'm looking at here, I'm seeing the Nats going against Buehler. No thanks. Like I don't want that. Like there's much better plays out there. I'm sort of avoiding that Phillies Braves game. Both pitchers are pretty solid because there's just much better plays. I'm avoiding Oakland because they're going against McCullers who can just kill you. So those are the teams that I'm going after or avoiding. And then another question here. Why is Kirk not taking Jansen's spot? Jansen sucks. Yeah, I don't know.
It's so disappointing because like
his defense, I think.
Is there any more aesthetically pleasing combo in baseball than Danny Jansen with the glasses and Alejandro Kirk? Like, is there a better looking catcher duo in baseball in like the history of baseball? I don't think there is, personally.
I don't know, man. Yeah, so all right, that's what we've got for the show. Thank you guys for listening. Jim, before we let you bounce, let everybody know where they can find you on the internet and what you got going on this season, man.
Yeah, so we actually do a daily Q&A session over on the FanDuel YouTube page. It's at 4 p.m. Eastern every weekday. We talk about that day's pitchers, that day's stacks. If you're trying to get into MLB DFS and you have a lot of questions, feel free to hop on over there. It's at 4 p.m. Eastern every weekday on the FanDuel YouTube page, also on Twitch. Facebook and Twitter. Happy to answer any questions there every weekday at 4 p.m. We also have a daily baseball podcast called The Solo Shot. You can find that by searching for the Number Fire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed. So a lot of DFS for me each and every day.
Hey man, good stuff. That was great information. I'm feeling confident I can actually play some DFS baseball.
I hope it works out, man. I appreciate the time.
I don't know. I'm nervous.
I believe in you. I believe in you.
Don't lose that Brew-Eyed money for me playing DFS now that you think you know what you're doing.
If you do lose it here.
Exactly.
That's good, man. All right. Have a good night, man. And appreciate you coming on, man.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Show. Thanks, Jim.
Jeff cut him off early.
Peace
out, Jeff. I'm ready to end the night.
Sorry.
I'm tired. So, all right, man. So yeah, good first week of baseball, and I'm looking forward to some more next week. We'll probably get into some, looking into more of these hot starts and seeing what's going on with these guys and some of these guys that are struggling, and see what we believe and not believe in, as we've done that before. So, yeah, that's all I got tonight, man. AJ, anything else?
A couple of quick things to
Nothing's
mention here. Shut up. That's why, because you fucking interrupt me all the time. Trey Mancini
Jeff's
gets
laughing.
a standing O at Orioles Stadium in his first at bat back at home after missing last year, not because of COVID, but because of cancer. So congrats to Mancini. He's been playing pretty well so far. Love seeing it. Keep up the good work, Trey. We're all rooting for you. And the last thing I want to mention is this complete BS HBP by Conforto, I believe it was, against the Marlins with the bases loaded, where they literally talked about him, how you're supposed to make an effort to avoid the pitch. The dude literally made an effort to not avoid the pitch by sticking his elbow in during what I guess he thought was the hokey pokey while the bases were loaded, and wins the game for the Mets on a walk-off hit by pitch, bases loaded. You just got another run in nonsense.
Maybe the pitcher shouldn't suck so bad. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know.
Maybe the Mets shouldn't just be the Mets. I mean, they suck. F you, Mets.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, man.
Terrible.
That's all I got. We will be back next week.
Stick man.
Enjoy, fellas. Peace.
Double